Okay, we're gonna get started with our webinar. Good evening, everyone, and the Blue Jay families. Thank you for all joining us for our Hop Back In webinar. My name is Ember Gray. I am a rising junior. I work in the Steffi office, which is the Student Transition and Family Engagement office. I work as a core team member, which kind of plans the new student orientation. Tonight, I want to welcome all the Blue Jay families. This is our third and final Hop Back In webinar in our series intended to help students and families return to Hopkins and answer your questions about as you get ready to send your children returning back to Hopkins. So all the webinars in this series are recorded and you can find it posted on our website within a few days. You will find the recording where you found the registration link. In tonight's webinar, we have representatives from the Leadership Engagement and Experiential Development as well as Pre-Professional Advising. They're here to share opportunities for second-year Hopkins students to be set up for success as they return to campus with leadership opportunities and getting prepped for professional school applications. There's a Q&A feature at the bottom of this webinar. Feel free to ask questions throughout the entire webinar, and we will do our best to answer your questions after the presentation is complete. If we are unable to answer your question within this webinar, please feel free to email us at bluejayfamilies@jhu.edu. In the chat, you'll see that we have provided a list of websites and resources to assist you with future questions, along with emails for the offices represented today. Now, I would like to introduce Hannah Paulding, Coordinator of Class Councils.
Hi guys, thanks Ember for the introduction. I'm Hannah. I work in the lead office and I'm the coordinator for class councils. So I work with student leaders to plan their class traditions. And I'm very excited today to talk to you about some of the activities that we have in the lead office, as well as ways that your students can get involved. Cool. So the lead office, which is the Leadership Engagement and Experiential Development Office, is the hub for student life at Hopkins. So we do campus programming and some of the large scale traditions. We are also we have fraternity and sorority life under our office, the Student Government Association. We do some leadership development, and we are also the house of all of our student organizations. So some of our campus programming and traditions are Blue Jay Opening Day, Hoptoberfest, Lighting of the Quads, Spring Fair, and Weekends at Hopkins. And we work a lot with campus partners and student orgs to make sure that these events happen. Cool. So Blue Jay Opening Day is one of the first big events that happens on campus in the fall semester. It kicks off the academic and athletic year. It typically happens the first home football game of the season. And this year, Blue Jay Opening Day is Saturday, September 5th. And this event is like a big tailgate. So typically there's a photo booth, there's DJ, there's giveaways, and lots of opportunities to connect with other campus partners. And this event, we do it in collaboration with athletics and a bunch of other campus departments to kick off the school year. And next, we have Hoptoberfest. This is our annual fall festival tradition that the HOP, which stands for, I think it's Hopkins Student Organization for Programming, but we call them the HOP. And this is a 3-day festival that happens on campus. So the first day is typically like a carnival with lots of different carnival games and giveaways that students can win. The second day typically consists of a haunted house. And then the third day is typically in the daytime. There's like I think it's farm day. So typically there's a petting zoo and some other fun little like crafts and activities. There's also the students purchase a bunch of pumpkins and they do a makeshift pumpkin patch so students can come and pick up their own pumpkins. And then in the evening there's a concert. And last year our artist was Khalid, which is really, really awesome. And when he came, he just released his new album, so it's very exciting to see him perform. And yeah, this is one of our big fall events that we put on. And then we have lighting of the quads, which kind of starts the winter season off and also ends the fall semester. This is the last like big event that we do in the fall. This is a tradition that was started in 2005 and it includes lots of performances from student groups. There's lots of giveaways and other activities from different campus partners. There's usually lots of hot cocoa and other treats that is put out by our campus dining. And there's trivia with President Daniels, and one of his big things is fireworks. So he usually gives like a little speech that has trivia, and then at the end, he like flips a little switch, and fireworks go off around campus. And also, like the weeks leading up to lighting of the quads, there's lots of little lights that are strung around. So when the fireworks go off, all the lights go on around campus as well. And it's really fun. And a special part of lighting of the quads is our mug giveaway, which before lighting of the quads happens, students are able to submit like different designs for the mugs, and then students vote on the best design, and then the design is put on a mug. So that's been a cool tradition within the lighting of the quads tradition that's been happening for the past 5 years, probably. It's really cool. Lots of students line up like hours ahead of time to make sure that they can get one of those mugs because we only have a limited amount. So it's definitely a cool tradition. And then Spring Fair, which is one of our largest traditions that happens on the Homewood campus. This has been going on for over 50 years, which is super exciting. And it's definitely changed a lot since the beginning, but definitely for the better. So this is a 3-day festival that includes lots of, again, student performances. There's a culture show, and that kind of kicks off Spring Fair. We have a beat battle and some performances from the radio club. It's a student group that they kind of have their own band, so they perform their own music. We have an arts and food vendor marketplace, so we have local artists that come and sell their works. This past year, we had students, they were able to sell their stuff as well, which is really cool. And also some fun food trucks. There's lots of inflatables and carnival games, different giveaways, and things for students to collect and win. And then just like Hoptoberfest, there's a concert, and last year or this past year, our artist was gonna. And this is definitely a very fun event and a great way to kind of in the spring semester, and it happens right before finals, so it's a fun way for students to de-stress. And then Weekends at Hopkins. This is a collaboration between our office and the Hop to provide engaging activities for students during the weekend. So our typical events that we put on are trivia. We do lots of game nights, karaoke, lots of movie nights, and Stuff a Plush, which is kind of like Build-A-Bear, but a little bit smaller, and craft nights. And these happen every Friday and or Saturday night. These typically happen in our new student center now. So if you're a student or if you are a student in this webinar and you're looking for something fun to do on a Friday or Saturday, definitely make sure you come to the student center because there's usually some type of fun event happening on those nights. And then these are just some pictures from some of our traditions. These are more recent pictures, but if you go online, you can see lots of pictures from years past as well. Cool. And now we have the Hop, which is our largest programming board on campus. Their motto is programming by students for students. So it's a group made up of about 50 undergraduate students who they're either on like an executive board, so they are largely programming, or they're volunteers, so they kind of just help out when they're able to. And they typically host at least one event per week. But if you go online and check their schedule, it's usually like two or three. So that's also another way to get involved on campus is to join the Hop. And their typical events are craft nights, movie viewings. They do a lecture series, so they bring high profile people to come on campus and give talks. And they host a lot of giveaways. And they also coordinate a lot of other campus traditions as well. Then we have fraternity and sorority life. So about 1,300 students on campus are involved in fraternity and sorority life, and there's 25 organizations. And this is a really great way to get involved and also kind of find a community. And for fraternity and sorority life, you do have to go through recruitment, and this The primary recruitment season happens at the beginning of the spring semester. So if you're interested, definitely make sure you check out some of the organizations. I know that they also typically do stuff at the beginning of the fall semester to kind of get students introduced. So if you're interested in joining a Greek organization, definitely make sure you follow their Instagram pages and pay attention to some of the stuff that they have coming up. And then we have SGA, which is composed of three branches. So we have the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. And if you go to the next slide, it kind of shows a larger overview of everything that encompasses SGA. I won't spend too much time on it, but SGA is a really great way to get involved and kind of have the opportunity to advocate for your peers in the student body and also have meaningful conversations with university leadership and really feel like you're making an impact on this campus. Cool. And now class council's programming, which if you saw in the previous image, falls under SGA. So we are composed of a chair of programming, a VP of programming. So those are the two students that are typically kind of like the liaison between SGA and the programming side. And then we have individual class councils. So for your freshmen, sophomore, junior, and seniors, those are students that are planning those class traditions and events. So they're responsible for class traditions and Battle of the Classes, which is a new initiative that we started last year. And this is a great opportunity to contribute to class traditions and interact with peers. It's also a great opportunity to, if you want to like a foot in the door with SGA, but you don't have the time to kind of commit to SGA, this is a great way to like put your foot in the door. Perfect. Okay, so our class traditions, which um, I know not everybody knows about, so I'm very excited to be able to speak to you guys tonight about this so that you do know what's coming up for your sophomore year, and also your junior and senior year as well. So each class has a formal in the spring. The freshmen have a masquerade ball. For the sophomores, there's a sophomore garden party that happens at Gertrude's, which is the little restaurant connected to the BMA. The juniors have a junior gala, and we typically do that in collaboration with the Hopthon and raise money for the Johns Hopkins Children's Center, which is really awesome. And then for seniors, we have senior week, so it's a ton of fun activities that happen the week before commencement. And then other events and activities can be planned at the discretion of each class. And then we have Battle of the Classes, which is a new initiative that we started last year, and very excited to bring that back again this year. It's a year-long competition that builds school spirit and friendly competition among the undergraduate classes. So typically we host at least one event per month, and at each of these events, students have the opportunity to earn points by participating in various events and challenges. So typical events that we host are J Games, which is kind of like a giant field day. We do flag football. We did a campus discovery slash hot fox hunt. So for those of you that don't know, there was a fox around campus last year, and we kind of wanted to play along with that because that was a big a thing with the students. So we did kind of like a scavenger hunt, and we had different clues each day of a certain week. And those clues led to different campus locations. And then at those locations, we had a little fox stuffed animal. So we were getting lots of pictures from students that were submitting of their little plushies and the names that they were calling it. So that was really fun. We're excited to bring that back again this year. We did trivia and some other stuff as well. And then at the end of the year, the class with the highest point total is crowned the Battle of the Classes champions. So last year the sophomore class won, so maybe this year the sophomore class will also be the winners, the class of 2029, but we'll see. And then this is just our fall schedule for Battle of the Classes events. So if you're interested in participating, you should definitely take a picture of this page and stay tuned to Hopkins groups and social media for more information. And then this is just Yeah, that's okay. You don't have to show the pictures. Just pictures from this year. It's all good. And then our leadership development, which is a core piece of our office. So we have lead consultants, which are students that help us with student organizations. So they're kind of like the first line of communication if a staff member is not present. So this is a paid position within our office, and this is a really great opportunity for students that want to have a little bit of fun. So they're really awesome. This is a really great opportunity for students. We also have Omicron Delta Kappa, which is for rising juniors and seniors to apply. This is a really great opportunity and it's a great resume booster as well. It's the oldest National Honor Society that recognizes both leadership and scholarship, which is really cool. And then every year we host the Leadership Awards. So student leaders can be nominated and win an award, and we recognize them. And then at Hopkins, we have over 300 student-run organizations, which is a lot for um, a smaller school, but a lot of our organizations do lots of great work. And one of the best ways to get involved on campus early on is to join a student organization. So every year at the start of each semester, we have the Student Involvement Fair, also known as SIF. And this is a great way for organizations to showcase what they have to offer. A lot of organizations recruit students at SIF. So if you're interested in getting more involved, this is a great way to do that. And this year, our fall SIF is Friday, September 4th from 2 to 5 p.m. on Wyman Quad. Cool. And then definitely make sure to stay connected with the lead Instagram and also your class of 2028 Instagram. That's where we will be posting a lot of updates. And if you don't already, make sure you download Hopkins groups and turn your notifications on so you know about things that are coming up on campus. And now I'm very excited to introduce Alex from the pre-professional advising office.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. All right. So my name is Alex Early, and I am a pre-health advisor in the pre-professional advising office, and we're located in Shriver Hall in room 030. We have both in-person and virtual appointment modalities. Our office is appointment-based, and so at the end, I will have a little bit more information on how to make an appointment. You must have attended a pre-health 101 in order to make an appointment with one of our advisors. And if you have not already done so, you can definitely attend one of those in the fall. Our email address is listed right there, and I'm going to put in the chat our just kind of general website because there's chock full of information on there as well. All right. And so this is a little bit about our pre-law track. And here is a resource that explains a little bit more about what we have to offer our pre-law students. There's an opportunities newsletter that goes out if you have declared an interest in law. And that just kind of highlights some of the programs that our office has going on, as well as things outside of our office. We also have one-on-one advising meetings as well as drop-in advising that is located within our newsletter as well as sent out in terms of the times of those drop-in advising sessions. You don't have to have an appointment. They're an hour long every week, twice a week. I believe this semester they are Wednesdays and Thursdays from about 3 to 4. And you can bring any questions you have about law or pre-health. We also have informational workshops, the Hopkins semester in DC that I also have a website for that I will put in the chat at the end. We have internships and research opportunities for pre-law students. You can create your LSAC account if you wanted to get some practice just with testing skills. We also do have a bunch of law school admissions visits that are typically virtual, but we do have some in person as well. Then, around the time when you are writing your personal statement, we have personal statement reviews from our pre-health advisor, Miss Omena Akpobome. She is not here with us tonight, but if you had any questions about that, you can absolutely email our office. We also have applicant support workshops and alumni services that also help with anything law related. And so, some next steps if you are thinking about pre law, because it really is such a straightforward track, you would want to visit our website just to get a little bit more information about timelines and any opportunities that may be fitting for your needs. Attend the pre law overview workshops. They can learn more about the application process as well as different pathways into the legal profession. And also schedule a pre law advising appointment just to understand your goals a bit better and how to reach them, as well as gaining some experiences. And again, you can make that appointment right on Handshake with a pre law advisor. And so now I'm going to go into our pre-health section a little bit deeper. And so this checklist goes over different resources we have in terms of preparation as well as during the application process. So we have our opportunities newsletter as well. We also offer one-on-one advising appointments. They are virtual or in person again, about 30 minutes long. We have drop-ins and travel advising, which means we'll sometimes camp out at the hot spots on campus where we can kind of reach students. So that may be the dining hall, one of the quads, anywhere that we can kind of just have quicker conversations. We have Pre-Health 101, which is for freshmen slash sophomores that didn't get a chance to attend, as well as Pre-Health 201, which is aimed for sophomores and some juniors. We also have health career presentations from different health professions. We have an Explore Your Why intercession course in the winter, and you can receive more information about that later this semester. We have a personal statement workshop that is typically held at the top of the spring semester, and it really just gives us an opportunity to explain what the personal statement is and how to begin writing. And that workshop is primarily geared more towards juniors and seniors who are applying, just so that they can get a feel for that narrative style of writing. We have the Pre-Health Academy, as well as some interview prep and experience mapping in conjunction with Life Design Lab. We actually do a mock interview day where we have the MMI format, which is the multiple mini interviews, and students can go around and basically practice their short interviewing skills, as well as when you are confirmed and have an interview with a school, we do a mock interview one-on-one as well. But again, that is after your student or you have received an interview offer. We have an Are You Ready assessment that we utilize in our advising sessions, which really hone in on questions that would help you to understand readiness and if you are in fact ready or maybe need a little bit more time to strengthen some areas. We have our HPA and committee process. And so the HPA is the Health Professions Application, which is an internal application very similar to primary applications for medical school, for dentistry, etc., where we really get a chance to ask you those questions that you'll be seeing in your application. So, what was the journey that you traveled to get to this point? Why medicine, etc. And so with that HPA, we have a list of deadlines and things that we need in order to create that committee letter. And so not to go too deep into it, because that's something to think about more in your junior year, but the committee letter essentially is similar to a cover letter that comes from our office, and we extrapolate what's written in the HPA and basically present you as a medical school student, right? Or I'm sorry, a medical school applicant. And we highlight things that you or your student may have done during their time at Hopkins, including clinical hours, extracurriculars, etc. And so we have our own set of guidelines and we have our own webinar that we present the committee letter process in. And so definitely keep your eyes out for that if you are thinking of applying next year as a junior. We also have many virtual admissions visits, about 4 a semester, where we have different medical schools across the country come and just talk a little bit about what their expectations are from applicants. We also have some panels, like osteopathic medicine panel, a dentistry panel, an MD PhD panel, where we have representatives from about 3 to 4 schools at each of those panels, just sharing some information that could be pertinent to those who are prospective students to those institutions. We also have alumni services and some applicant specific workshops. Those workshops include getting some feedback on your target school list, as well as editing your personal statement. And again, that mock interview practice. So we have a ton of resources in our office, and a lot of this you'll be able to read more about on our website. And so I often get the question of what makes a successful applicant for a health professions program? And so academic achievement, of course. And I often get the question of, well, what does that look like, right? And it really does vary school to school. And so we say to, of course, aim for a strong GPA, a strong MCAT score, and it really does vary by institution. There is a tool called the MSAR, MSAR, that we utilize from the double AMC that goes in depth about the metrics and kind of ideal metrics that each institution has in place. And so we really try to just get students to try their best and to utilize academic resources to improve their academic portfolio. Research experience. Not every medical school requires research experience, and it does not have to be research experience in a wet lab. It can be any type of research that you actually enjoy or that your student actually enjoys. We do not want students to focus on research simply because it may look good for medical schools. We want them to really have a chance at enjoying it as well. And then that clinical experience. So observation as well as patient facing. And so we want to see a mix of shadowing where you're observing healthcare providers as well as getting some hands-on experience. And I say that with an asterisk because when you are, let's say, a freshman, sophomore, junior, you probably aren't certified or licensed in anything to be able to take vitals or do anything honestly beyond building a rapport and chatting with patients. And that is okay. We really just want to make sure that you are being exposed to the ins and outs and day to day of healthcare. Then there's community service, which is also very important. Community service just really gives our students and applicants the opportunity to meet with those in the Baltimore area or in their home state and work with populations that they may not have worked with in the past, which is really crucial. Most medical schools look for a good amount of community service. So just keep that in mind as you are going into your second year. Make sure that you're just kind of getting your feelers out for things that interest you, whether it is a food pantry locally, if you wanted to connect with the Center for Social Concern, they always have a bunch of great opportunities, but definitely get out there and build those service hours. We also have additional experiences, so clubs, athletics, and hobbies definitely do count, and there is space for them on the application. And then letters of recommendation. And I would say at this point, in terms of letters of recommendation, you wouldn't necessarily be collecting any of those yet. We go more in depth on how those letters are collected in our HPA kickoff in your junior or senior year. But I will say the most important part about this right now is building a rapport, right? Building a rapport with your professors, with any clinical or non-clinical volunteering experience, because in the future, your student or yourself will definitely need to have at least 3 solid letters of recommendation. So think of some professors that you can kind of build a working relationship with. Of course, we know that a lot of these courses at Hopkins are STEM courses that have hundreds and hundreds of students in them, which can make it more difficult. But we definitely have conversations within our office about how to build those relationships. And so definitely meet with an advisor if you are feeling any anxiety or nervousness about ways to connect. And so, some important considerations. Second year students really should be taking the time to just explore resources, both on campus and off campus, as well as actively engaging in service, research, and clinical experiences. I often get asked the question in fall semester of second year, well, I haven't started anything yet. Am I behind? And the answer is it depends on your goals, right? For someone that is looking to apply as a junior to medical school, you'll definitely want to have started some hours, at least in your sophomore year, if not by your sophomore year. If you're open to taking a gap year or more, it is absolutely fine to begin some of these endeavors in your sophomore, fall, or spring. And so keep that in mind and also utilize your intersessions, so winter and summer, to gain some more of these experiences. Explore, join, but find balance in extracurricular activities, meaning you don't want to overload yourself. I know you may hear on Reddit, it looks great to have 1,000 activities on your resume, but if you are not being consistent and committed to them, it doesn't always look great. And so we say find a few things that you really enjoy and can commit time to. So maybe one or two clubs on campus and maybe one community service endeavor and one clinical endeavor. But again, you want to focus on your academics. Applicants to medical school must have medically related experiences and community service. Those are non-negotiables. And we do have a document that we provide students with some of those clinical experiences. The Imagine Center Life Design Lab also typically has a good amount of those. And then in our newsletter that gets emailed out every couple of weeks, we also will share some clinical opportunities that may have been shared with us from alumni or just those in our network. Medical schools really do value that quality again over the quantity in terms of your activities. And apply to medical school when you are a strong, compelling applicant. I know it seems so tempting to just apply when your friends are applying or when you're a junior traditionally. But if you are short on hours or if your GPA is not as strong as it can be, we will have those conversations with you. And while we can't make the decision for you, we will definitely suggest taking more time to strengthen those areas because it is a very, very expensive process. And going through it not feeling prepared just doesn't always fare well. And that may mean taking a growth year. You may hear the term gap year or bridge year, which is a great way to kind of hone in on any areas of weakness in your application, whether that means retaking a course or two, maybe getting a master's in a STEM field if you have an interest, or even getting some more of those hours that I mentioned. And so here we're going to talk a little bit about building a successful application. And Ember, you can go ahead and have them all up. And so, according to the double AMC's 2023 Matriculating Student Questionnaire, over two-thirds of matriculants reported that a year or more had passed since graduating from college. And so, we don't sway our students and applicants in any one direction. We really do talk to them one-on-one to figure out and assess their needs. But statistics show that those who do take at least a year or more since graduating from college tend to feel more prepared, and it is more common than I think a lot of students and applicants think it is. And so please make sure to utilize your resources on campus. Our office, again, you can reach us right on Handshake or via email, as well as our drop-in advising. Life Design Lab over at the Imagine Center. Our, which is the Office of Undergraduate Research. Academic support services like the Learning Den, right? If you know that you are struggling in a course, it is better to kind of reach out for help earlier rather than later in your semester. Hopkins groups. I use that term so many times in appointments. Hopkins groups really is a gem of a resource in order to find different organizations and clubs and groups on campus and get involved. And same for Center for Social Concern. I've had so many students who said, Miss Alex, I can't seem to find any community service. And then we link them with the Center for Social Concern and they find some really great resources. Also, honing in on that idea of self-awareness in sophomore year is really important, right? Understanding why you're going into the medical field. That is a really, really, really crucial part of this process, right? Something deeper than wanting to help people, right? What is calling you to specifically want to go into either medical school, vet school, becoming a dentist, etc.? And so make sure you consider some time to pursue graduate school if that's in the cards for you, getting more research, taking advantage of some service programs. I know that there are some service trips through different departments on campus, clinical work, national fellowship. There is some opportunities for going abroad and some industry work. I have many applicants who took some time out to work in the industry before really making a decision about applying to medical school. And so the next steps, you will visit the pre-professional advising website for some guidance on our timelines as well as the committee letter process. If you have not done so, please attend a pre-health 101 before you meet with an advisor. Also, we have we have four, but we have three mentioned here, advising guides that are really, really helpful. And again, I can drop these links in the chat as soon as I'm finished. But guide one is just a little bit about planning your pre-health and pre-med journey. Guide two talks a bit more about letters of recommendation, what to include in those, and how to build that rapport. And then guide three goes in depth about the application process itself. And if you are able to, please click on, or I'm sorry, scan that QR code. We'll leave that up on the screen for about 30 seconds. There are so many opportunities in that newsletter. Closer to winter, there are oftentimes things that we have going on in the spring semester to look forward to. We also put our events. We have so many events in our office, including, again, those panels. We also have a new panel series called The Pulse, where we really try to get students involved. Last year, we had one for MCAT prep, and we had panelists who had already taken the MCAT and DAT talk a bit about their standardized test experience. We will have more of those this year. We also have specific drop-ins for certain topics. And so definitely, again, utilize our newsletter. We also do a fall open house, kind of similar to what it sounds like Hoptober is, where we have just a little bit of fun in our actual office with some games that test your manual dexterity and medical knowledge. We have giveaways and just some cozy treats like donuts and hot chocolate. And so, again, scan that QR code and follow us on Instagram at Hopkins Pre-Health. We try to be funny sometimes with some cool reels, but we also do post our event flyers on Instagram just to reach you all. And thank you. I am going to now pass it over for some Q&A.
All right. Thank you so much, Hannah and Alex. So now's the time if you've had questions. I see a couple in the chat here, but we're going to open it up to our panelists. So first question, do you have any advice for getting involved in leadership opportunities within student organizations, especially for more introverted students?
Yes. First of all, I misspoke for most of you on this webinar. You guys are the class of 2029, not the class of 2028. So I apologize for that. And if you want to get connected with your class Instagram, it's at JHUSJ29. And I updated the slides, Emily. So if you share those out, it'll have the correct information. But I would say the best way to get involved, especially if you're an introvert, is definitely to attend the student involvement fair on September 4th. That is like the best way. There, like I said, we have over 300 student organizations, so there is an organization for any interest in anyone. And pretty much all of our student organizations table at that event, so that is a great way to meet your people. We have lots of pre-professional organizations, so if that is more your route, you can definitely talk to some advisors and professors at those tables as well. But there's also lots of fun social organizations, so that would be my number one recommendation, is to attend the student involvement fair. It can be a little bit daunting, especially if you are an introvert, but it is just such an amazing way to meet people. And typically you don't have to visit all of them. So we have like a map and we try to like put organizations, like we try to group them based on what like they would be classified as. So if there's groups that like you definitely want to meet, you can just follow the map and find those specific groups instead of like walking around the involvement fair a little aimlessly. But that would be my number one recommendation. And Ember, I'm not sure if you're allowed to answer questions, but as a student leader, like you probably would be the best person to also answer this question as well.
Yeah, I have quite a few leadership positions on campus. There's many for students. I took many my sophomore year is actually when I got these positions. So I work in the global education office as a assistant, and I also am a pilot leader. I'm also a TA. So I do have experience kind of getting these positions. Um, it can seem really daunting at first for students when they're like, oh my God, I need to get so many hours in this area or that area, or I need to get like all these leadership positions. I definitely recommend kind of following the advice that was said earlier to like not overload, especially for introverted students. I myself am quite an introvert, and it's very hard to kind of like put yourself out there and like become a person that's like, on a Zoom, like talking to people. But it's a lot of work, but it's definitely possible. So, yeah.
Um, Thank you all. So next one, we have a couple of pre-professional questions here. So my student couldn't attend Pre-Health 101 during freshman year, but has signed up for 201. Is it possible to start attending those pre-health sessions and advising sessions after attending 201 without 101?
So typically, I would say no. That would be a question that would kind of get pushed up. And I'll put our email address in the chat. And I say that because there are pre-health 101s as soon as classes start back up. And we are actually going to have some drop-ins as well. So you don't need to have you don't have to have pre-health 101 completed before drop-ins. And so if your student just has a couple of quick questions and wants to attend a drop-in those first week of classes, they absolutely can. But I would say they would definitely want to attend a pre-health 101 because once they do, they get a tag that allows them to make an appointment on Handshake. So the short answer is no. But again, if that is something that they have some really big questions about, you can email us for sure. And I'll put our email address in the chat.
And then are there any cutoffs, GPA, MCAT score, activities that need to be met in order to obtain a committee letter?
Sorry, I was muted, but that's a great question. No, there is not. And so the criteria for committee for obtaining a committee letter is you've had to have had at least one appointment with our office in your entire career. You have to abide by our deadlines. And so we have some kind of internal deadlines, uploading your unverified application by June, having your letters of recommendation in by July, and also completing that HPA application by March. Those deadlines shift each year, so I won't give specific dates, but as long as you have met with us and have met those requirements, then you would receive a committee letter. So there is no cutoff in terms of those scores and activities. And we don't do any rankings or anything like that. We simply extrapolate from what you or your student would write in that HPA.
And then what if a student isn't interested in law or medicine specifically? Where should students go for advising on non-medical law masters or a PhD program even?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is very much going to be major specific. So if they're falling under KSAS, they have a ton of KSAS advisors. So that is Krieger Arts and Sciences. If they are under the Whiting School of Engineering, they also have their own advising team. And so our office strictly works with law and medicine, but every student has a general advisor that they work with to create their four-year plan. They talk about those. Foundational abilities requirements, graduation requirements, etc. And so I would definitely encourage your student to figure out who their advisor is. It's located typically on their transcript, their unofficial transcript. And yeah, I'm not sure, Emily, if you have further with that one.
Yeah, I was like, well, I'll answer a question tonight. So something else to consider that was mentioned previously by both our panelists is faculty is a really great network and resource to tap into, especially if you discovered what type of master's or PhD program from attending a specific class or talking with a specific professor. So I would say really take advantage of those office hours and contact information with professors that you've worked with or attended class with, because they've gone through the experience of going through these master's and PhD programs. Um, and then one more so far, just a follow up from advancing in like leadership opportunity. Could you elaborate more on how to advance from being just a club member to a club leader or e-board member?
Also, can I start off really quickly? Just a sidebar with that question. I think there's a misconception with students that leadership for medical school or even law has to be like an e-board position, like president or treasurer. And while that is really cool and it's great, being a member is honestly wonderful because you learn so much about how to work with a group. And if you are involved in a club or an organization on campus and you don't have an e-board position, but maybe you spearheaded a fundraiser or put together some sort of programming, that still counts as leadership. And so I always say if you don't get an e-board position in those 3 to 4 years, it is absolutely okay.
Thank you, Alex. Hannah, I'll hit that over to you as well. If there's anything more to add there.
I'm so sorry, my internet cut out, so I hope you can hear me. Um, yes, I don't, Alex, what did you share real quick? I'm so sorry. I don't want to like say the same things.
Oh, no worries. I didn't say anything about like answering the question. I just stated that being a member is still really, really important if someone couldn't get an e-board position in an organization.
Perfect. So for every organization, it's different. So it just depends on what that organization's constitution states. But for the most part, every org has an e-board and they do elections most of the times in the spring. So if you are a current student or if you are just a family member joining on for your student, I would definitely encourage you to check out the organization's like guidelines for that. But it's typically a pretty easy process, just depending on the organization itself. But there's executive board positions, or sometimes if you don't want to be like the president or the vice president, there's lower positions as well that still have pretty good like leadership development within them. And if you have like more questions, I didn't put this in my slides, which I can update it, but our office is now located in the new student center. We are on the fourth floor and we are um, room 412, which if you're a student and you're in the student center, we're like on the opposite side. So one side is the CMC, which is the Creative Media Center, and then we're on the opposite side.
Okay. And then is the pre-health or pre-professional advising office responsible for sending out letters as well as the committee letters, like the recommendation and committee as a package? And then how long does it take to prepare the committee letter?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, the committee letter is a packet, and so we do include the letters of recommendation. Again, all of that is in a separate webinar, but there is a portal that we use where students would just enter the email address of the professor, their boss, etc., and that person would receive a request. They would upload. The student waives their rights to seeing the letter. And once that student has met all of the application deadlines, so having their application submitted, having their AMCAS application uploaded, and all of their letters of recommendation are in, we package everything up, and then there's about a 4 week turnaround. So let's say the applicant gets their last letter of rec in on about June 15th, then around July 15th is when we send the packet out. There are times where a student may choose to not go through the committee letter process, and that is okay. It is optional, completely optional, because we do let applicants know in advance, hey, we're working with hundreds of you all, and there's only but so many of us. And so if you're someone who wants to get things in super duper early, you can absolutely have your letters of rec submitted directly to AMCAS. But yes, it's about 4 to max 6 week turnaround from when all of the application materials are submitted.
And then looks like a follow-up. Can a
Mhm.
student include letters from professors from other universities as an additional letter within the committee letter packet?
Yeah, for sure. So the minimum is 3 letters. And so one would be from a science professor, the other can be from a science professor or a humanities professor, a behavioral sciences professor, anyone else that taught them at the university. Even if that professor taught them, let's say, this upcoming year and then left maybe by their senior year, they can still get a letter from them. And then that third letter is a medically relevant experience. And so that has to be someone that a student has shadowed or worked with one on one, maybe a volunteer coordinator at like a hospice or wherever they're volunteering. And then they have up to three additional letters. And so that can be from a professor from another institution, that can be a mentor, that can be a president of an organization that they are a member of. So, yes, they have up to three optional with us.
Looks like another one for you, Alex. Does Hopkins help students get connected with free clinics in Baltimore? And then how would a student go about it if they have reached out and they haven't heard back yet?
Yes, I will be honest, it can be difficult to get some of those volunteer endeavors near campus. And I'll be very transparent. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of pre-health students at Hopkins that are kind of all looking for the same opportunities in that bubble because I know transportation can be tough. And so we usually say to follow up via email, right? Maybe one or two times, and also try to look outside of the immediate network because I know that there are a bunch of shuttles at Hopkins that go maybe a mile or two, no, probably 2 miles outside of campus. There are so many free clinics. I know that MedStar has a guest ambassador program, so that application typically opens up around this time of year. And so, really, just looking at the hospitals outside of Hopkins Hospital, looking into Mercy and all of the different healthcare systems near campus. But if they're really having some trouble, absolutely meet with an advisor, and we can talk one on one.
And I apologize if you mentioned this, Alex, but I think that's also where those intercession and summer programs would be really helpful, a way to fill in the gap
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you can't find any volunteering in Baltimore, I'm going to be honest, we really do recommend utilizing your home resources. Start volunteering at home in the summer, right? If you go home for spring break, get that fingerprinting done, all of that jazz, so that when you get back home in May, you can volunteer typically the whole summer, and that's pretty common with our office.
And then are there resources or opportunities specific to intellectual property law if a student's interested in that, or like different like specific branches of law?
I don't believe we have resources for specific branches, but I would say to definitely shoot us an email because our director and our pre-law advisor may have some additional resources for specific kind of lanes in law, but not off the top of my head. I apologize.
And then is a student able to see their committee letter or their package? Um, I think they're curious with like wanting to know where they're standing, like in their candidate strength of applying to a school, what that would look like, and if they have visibility to that package.
Yeah, so they do not view the committee letter package. They waive their rights, in fact, and they know what's mentioned in the committee letter because they're essentially writing what we write in the committee letter. We're just writing it from a different perspective. And so what they write in their committee letter, I mean, I'm sorry, what they write in their HPA is what we write in our committee letter. And we really try to drive home the point that you need to take time to fill out that HPA so that we can really get to know you and write that letter. In terms of the letters of recommendation not being strong, we really, really, really advise students to pick people that can speak highly of them. Unfortunately, with that many applicants, it is tougher for us to read a letter of rec and say, oof, this isn't completely strong, let's send it back, right? As long as they are speaking positively about the student, even if it's not the longest, we're going to utilize that letter of recommendation. And so, again, that kind of falls on the student to make sure they have a really good relationship with their professor or with that mentor or whoever they're asking for. But I will say, if it is a letter that is speaking negatively about a student, we will let that student know, hey, this may not be the right person to write you a letter. Like, do you have a backup? Yeah.
So, and then can you clarify how many letters of recommendation they need to qualify for that committee letter?
Yep. So at minimum, two professors, and one must be a science professor or a STEM professor. So science, engineering, math.
And then does it make a difference to have, this is just a follow-up I have
Mhm.
that I'm sure people are curious about. Does it make a difference to have additional letters, or does that not really matter as much?
Nope. If you have three really strong letters, the two professors, and one medically relevant experience, you don't need those additional three unless you absolutely choose to. Because sometimes if you are just like adding three more just to fill those spots and they're not strong letters, it could essentially hurt you a little bit more because they are quite generic letters, right? And so it's better to have really good letters and less of them than have more that aren't speaking to you as strongly.
Well, those are all the questions I see here. So we'll wrap up our webinar. For anyone who is interested or any student who is on the pre-health track, interested in medical, we are having the pre-health 201 webinar tomorrow. That is going to be the same place you registered for this one. So just register there again for that one. It will be tomorrow at 1 p.m. So just be on the lookout for that and the link to sign up. If you have any follow-up questions or want to review anything, the recording for this webinar will be posted on our website in a couple of days. And as always, please reach out to us if there's any questions. We have all the links here. Thank you so much, Alex. We thank Hannah for joining us, and we hope you all have a great night.
Yes, thank you so much. I hope everyone has a great night. Take care. See some of you tomorrow for Pre-Health 201.